So we're going to start on our stomach. Your toes can either be touching or the heels can just be splaying out if that feels better to you. You can also choose to have the heels splay in and the toes splay out. And with a hand stacked directly underneath the forehead, we're going to take the first 3 to 5 breaths just to settle here. Some of you might find that you want to then stack the forearms on top of each other because that feels a little better. And some of you may find that you even want to inchworm the arms away from the spine, and that feels a little bit better. And we're just going to take the first few moments here to allow the abdomen to start to descend in towards the floor. And then allow your awareness just to notice what that does in your low back. So if you indicated that you were feeling stuff in the low back, just to notice what happens here as you actively press your abdomen down into the floor. And we'll just take 3 to 5 more steady breaths here. And for these next 3 to 5 breaths, if you want to make audible sighs with the mouth, by all means, go ahead and do that. And then very gently, let's start to tone the back of your throat and invite in an Ujjayi pranayama. So you're inviting a slight constriction to the back of the throat. And as the breath comes in and as the breath goes out, allow the awareness to just rest on the sound of the breath. And as you continue to rest on the sound of the breath, start to notice what's happening in terms of the quality of the breath, making it smooth and steady. And you'll just spend about a minute or so more here. And today we're working on this idea of opening up to life, allowing ourselves to naturally increase our ability to take things in and naturally increase our ability to let things go. And so for these last 3 to 5 breath cycles that you have here, notice where you can allow the breath to move a little bit more fully. And notice where perhaps it doesn't wish to go. There's no right, no wrong. You're just allowing yourself to start to observe things. At the end of your next exhalation, go ahead and cactus your arms out to the right and to the left. And you'll make sure that you've got about a 90-degree angle, so the elbows are bent and the shoulders are bent at about 90 degrees. Go ahead and look at your left hand. Slide your left hand over to the left about an inch or two. Actively claw the floor with your hand and then turn your head back to the right. Press your hand behind you, so left hand, left elbow into the floor. Start to walk your right hand close to your chest and then push into the right hand to roll towards your left. Now, because the elbow is bent, you may not get very far. Keep the head pretty low towards the floor, shoulder on the floor. And then notice what happens if you lift and lower the head just a little bit and breathe into the upper part of your chest. You've got 1 to 2 more breath cycles here, noticing how you can invite in a deeper breath and noticing where you can soften and surrender. Nice work. Gently roll back onto your abdomen. Continue to look at the right hand and slide the right arm, elbow out towards the right. Actively claw through all 5 fingers on that right hand and then gaze towards your left hand. From here, walk the left hand closer to your chest, push down into the hand and elbow behind you and start to roll towards your right. And again, you might notice that you might not get very far. This is a very tight position, especially with the elbow bent. So how can you allow yourself to receive and trust that this right now is what needs to be happening, and that's totally okay. On your next inhalation, you'll draw yourself back onto your abdomen. Great. And then from here, just bring your hands to your low back. And you can go ahead and interlace your hands if you'd like. And notice what happens if you just shrug the shoulders up towards the ears a little bit and then shrug them down. Maybe lift your hands away from your pelvis a little bit and maybe back down. And you're just noticing what it feels like to move the shoulder girdle in this capacity. And then very gently, just bend your right knee and draw your right heel towards your pelvis. You might then grab that right foot with one or both of your hands, depending upon how you're feeling. And then I want you to take 3 to 5 breaths here to notice what it feels like to either kick your foot back and away from you or pull it closer in towards you. Noticing if you need to roll in more towards the midline of your body or roll out. Noticing what it feels like to point or flex that right foot. And you're just paying attention to what's happening in the front of your hip flexors. This part, for many of us, because we're sitting so much, might not feel so great. And one added thing here, see if you can scoop your belly up towards your heart so it comes forward just a little bit. Nice job. Very gently release that right foot. And then you'll switch to the other side, just bending the left knee. Maybe grabbing it with one or both hands, your choice. And then again, explore what's feeling appropriate for you on this side. Maybe the left knee opens a little bit. Maybe it comes closer towards the right leg. Maybe you flex through the foot. Maybe you point. Maybe you lift that left thigh off the floor. Maybe you don't. But you're paying attention to what feels good here. I've been asking myself what would happen if I believed that everything in life was here for my benefit. How would I respond to things that might not be so pleasant? On your next exhalation, gently release that left leg long. From here, bring both of your hands to your low back, letting the palms stack right on top of each other. And then we'll try our little navel salute thing. So before we do that, lift your left leg up. Hug all the muscles around that bone, reach the left leg back and put the foot down, pressing into the top of the big toenail and the pinky toenail. And then do the same thing on the right leg, lift the right leg up, hug all the muscles around the bones of the leg, extend the leg back, and then put the foot down onto the floor. Press evenly into the tops of your big toes and pinky toe mounds on both feet. Nice work. Next inhalation, sweep your right arm forward, left leg lifts, give a little navel salute. And then exhale, swim the arm back and lower the leg down. Other side. Inhale, swim your left arm forward, right leg high. And exhale, lower back down. And you've got about 10 sets of these on your own. As you continue to go, the right arm will come, the left leg will lift, and then the right cheek comes to the mat as the right arm swims back. And then as the left arm swims forward and the right leg lifts, your head is center. And then as you swim the arm back, the left ear comes to the mat. And you've just got, I don't know, about 6 more sets on your own. And we're just paying attention to how we can start to activate the back of our body. My teacher talks about the low back really being the pivotal point in terms of strengthening ourselves, not only physically, but also energetically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So we're just starting to wake that up. And we'll take about 2 more sets of these little swimming navel salutes. And you're just paying attention to how the breath is starting to move in your body. Okay. Once you are balanced between the sides, go ahead and bring your forehead to the mat. Keep your hands at the back of your sacrum. Okay, and then we'll just do 1 set of these, both arms, both legs at the same time. Inhale, sweep the arms back, around and up, lift both legs. And exhale, swim the arms back behind you, lower back down. Nice job. Interlace the hands once again. Shrug the shoulders up towards the ears, and then notice if you wish to lift the hands away from the pelvis and maybe lift the chest up as you push down into the feet. Some of you will stay there. Some of you will reach the feet back and then lift them up and away from the floor, but you're paying attention to what feels good to you. On your next exhalation, gently release and come back down onto your belly. Bend your right knee once again, draw the heel towards your pelvis, and just take a moment to check in here, grabbing that foot with one or both hands, and maybe this time lifting the right thigh up and away from the floor as you scoop the pubic bone to the belly button. And then very gently, you'll release that leg and switch sides, bending the left knee, hugging the knee, or hugging the heel into your pelvis. and just pausing and breathing. Awesome sauce. Gently release your left leg. Plant your hands alongside your ribs. And then press yourself to a tabletop position. And for this first tabletop, if you need to, blanket might be great to pad underneath your knees. You might choose to also just go without it, but it's totally up to you. And then also take the opportunity to plant both of your blocks towards the upper outer corners of your space. Okay, awesome sauce. Once you find yourself there, plant your hands underneath your shoulders. Walk your knees, ankles, and shins together and tuck both sets of toes under. From here, you're just going to push your pelvis back towards your heels. Yep. And you might lift your knees up just a little bit and then push back through the feet even more and then lower the knees back down. Thank you, Sandy, for the suggestion. From here, walk your hands forward and rest your belly on your thighs. Belly on your thighs. Yep. Now, this is a very different way to get into toe squats. So with your arms fully forward, I want you to push down and forward through the tips of your fingers. Lift up through your inner elbows, up through your inner armpits, and wrap your triceps to the floor. Now, if this feels like this is already enough for you in terms of what you're able to access, by all means, stay right here. Otherwise, you might start to walk your hands a little further back and bring your spine up to vertical, resting on top of your sit bones and heels. Nice job. And then you'll just take 3 to 5 more breath cycles here, noticing what you notice. How can we open the heart? How can we open the chest and just receive what is happening here? Arms are just hanging, allowing ourselves not to fetter. One of the things that I found when I took a singing class is you tend to close the body off, but how can you just stand ready, stand open without having to do anything? On your next exhale, come forward. Bring the tops of the feet to the floor, pitter patter the toes if that feels good to you, having a happy little temper tantrum. And conversely, you might shift your weight back and lift one or both knees up and away from the floor for a little counter stretch. Okay. Awesome thoughts. From here, we'll make our way forward onto hands and knees once again. Okay. With your hands directly underneath your shoulders, bring the tops of your feet to the floor. Inhale, gaze forward slightly. And then exhale, tuck your chin towards your chest, push your pelvis back towards your heels, come into a modified child's pose. We're going to do about 5 of these. So inhale, come forward. At the end of your inhale, look forward. And then as you exhale, start by tucking chin to chest, scooping belly, pushing bum back towards your heels. And as you take these last 3 sets on your own, see if you can connect the breath to the movement. What this is doing is this is allowing us to gradually lengthen our exhalation by feeling the tone in the abdomen, which naturally happens in a forward fold. And it enables us to turn more inward so that we can reflect on how things are happening in our lives and how everything might actually be here to serve us if only we could see it that way. Okay, I believe you have one more set on your own, and you're just working with the breath, slowing down the breath to match the movement, slowing down the movement to match the breath. Nice. Adding on. The next time you inhale and come forward to tabletop, you'll exhale, tuck your toes under and lift your pelvis back to downward facing dog. And I encourage you to keep your knees pretty bent for these first ones. And then you'll inhale and come back forward, hands and knees. And then you'll exhale and press back to that mild, modified child's pose. And you've just got 3 sets of these. So a slow inhalation draws you forward to that tabletop position. A slow exhalation draws you back to a downward facing dog. And as you take these last 2.5 sets, I invite you to notice if you can make your breath about 6 counts. So 6 counts for the exhalation, 6 counts for the inhalation, going forward and back. Just noticing how paying attention to the breath really allows the mind to focus. Okay, this should be your last set. And then the next time you find yourself in downward facing dog, you'll just pause and breathe. And I encourage you to take the opportunity to notice whether it feels good to you today to bend one knee and bend the other. To notice if it feels good to you today to sway your pelvis a little bit, like the puppies that are in the practice space. Or if it feels good to just be stable. I think one of the interesting things about opening ourselves up to life is that what works one day is not necessarily what may work a different day in a different situation. And so we have to allow ourselves to notice that that's just a reality and be okay with that to the best of our ability. All right, go ahead and come to stillness if you're in movement. On your next exhalation, start to bend your knees and crawl your hands back towards your feet. Now, once you get to the back of your space, separate your feet as wide as you need to. You might then clasp opposite elbows or just let the hands rest onto the floor. But again, or bring your hands to the back of your head. But again, you're going to take a bit of movement here. So those of you in particular that said that you were having stuff happening in your hamstrings, notice what's happening here. If you're having stuff in your back, notice what's happening here. And you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing what you notice. And then very gently, you'll come to stillness if you're in movement. Release your hands down to the floor and crawl yourself forward back to tabletop position. Great. Once you find yourself in tabletop, plant your hands directly underneath the shoulders. Send your right leg long and back. Tuck the toes under for a moment. And then you're going to squeeze your right butt cheek a lot. Hug your front 2 hip bones together a lot. And then scoop your pubic bone to your navel. From here, inhale, float that right leg up parallel to the floor. And as you exhale, make sure those toes are pointing straight down to the floor. Some of you will stay here with both hands firmly planted on the floor, or you might reach your left arm forward in opposition. Great. Listen very closely. As you inhale, you'll lengthen your limbs away from each other and down towards the floor. And then as you exhale, you'll lift them away from each other and back up to the sky. And we've got about 5 of these. So inhale, reaching out to come down. Exhaling, reaching out to come up. And the whole time you're pushing down into that right hand a lot, left knee a lot, front ribs pull back. Okay, the end of your next exhalation, just stay momentarily lifting the limbs up. And then if that left arm is high, release just the left hand to the floor. Bend your right knee to about a 90-degree angle. Great. Push down into both hands a lot and draw that low belly in. As you exhale, draw your right knee towards your chest. Start to open it out towards the right. And then inhale, swim it out behind you and back down towards the floor. So we're taking very slow circles here. And I'm encouraging you to do this with the breath. So exhaling front and then open to the right. Inhaling back and down towards the left knee. And you're squeezing that right butt cheek the whole time. If you want to add a little bit more intensity, you flex through that right foot even more. And you're noticing what you notice as we work very mindfully to find our full range of motion using the core and using that outer adductor of the hip. Cool. The next time the right knee comes forward, switch directions. So you'll inhale and send the right leg back and to the side, and then exhale, drawing it into the midline and down to the left knee. And you've got about 4 sets of these, and you're just noticing what you notice here. Has your weight shifted to your left hand and left hip, or are you able to keep it stable? There you go. Nice work. The next time your right leg comes towards the left knee, lower the knee down to the floor, and then either take some cats or cows or just push back to child's pose and notice what is happening on one side of the body more than the other. Great. And then bring yourself back to tabletop, and we'll try all that on the other side. Okay, so root down through the hands, send your left leg back, tuck the toes under. Hug all the muscles around that left leg. Lift up through the inner left thigh to float the left leg up towards the ceiling. And keep hugging front hip bones together, pubic bone to belly button, low belly into low back. And maybe you stay here with both hands planted, or maybe you reach that right arm forward in opposition. But you've got about 5 sets of these. So you'll inhale, extend the limbs away from each other and then down towards the floor. And then exhale, reach them away from each other and come back up. And you're again noticing what you notice. So one of the benefits of doing this type of dynamic movement, as it's called, is you are training your body to learn what happens in repetitive motion. You're also giving it the opportunity to self-correct. Keep your heads lifted. There we go. And this should be your last set. Go ahead and pause here for a moment, lifting forward through that right arm, back through the left leg. Lower just the right hand to the floor, bend your left knee. Flex through that left foot. And then as you exhale, draw the knee in towards the chest, out towards the left. Inhale it back behind you and down towards your right knee. So as you do this about 3 more sets on this direction, I want you to have this action happening from the core and from the glute. So we're trying to keep that right arm as straight as possible, keep the low belly in, just noticing that this muscle group doesn't like working so much in this direction. And we're seeing if we can just wake up these muscles. And then after you've done 4 this direction, you'll go ahead and switch sides, or directions rather. So you'll inhale and send the leg back out towards the left, and exhaling, drawing it into the midline and down to the right knee. Awesome sauce. After you've done 4 sets, you'll come back to tabletop position and then press back to downward facing dog for a moment. So we're now in down dog. Notice what the hips and hamstrings and legs feel like now. Great. Take a big breath in and take a big breath out. Next in breath, come forward into plank pose, fallen kasana. We're just going to pause here. I want you to push down through your hands a lot. So if you want to come to forearm plank, that is totally appropriate as well. And you're going to see if you can lengthen back through the tailbone, lift up through your inner thighs, push down through your appendages in the upper body, and then lift your right leg up and away from the floor, and breathe for 3, breathe for 2, and breathe for 1. Lower the right leg down, and then do it with the other leg, lifting the left leg up for 3, and for 2, and for 1. Lower down, 1 more set each side. Inhale, lifting up through that right leg, pushing down through the floor. And exhaling, lowering down. And last time, inhale, lifting that left leg up, keeping the hips pretty parallel to the floor. And exhale, lowering down. Nice job. Lower your knees to the mat and come to tabletop position. Now, from here, I still encourage you to keep those knees padded, and I'm going to encourage you to put your hands on your blocks. And then you're going to step your left foot between your blocks. And our hands are framing that front foot. Our back toes are tucked under, and you might even inchworm that blanket back if it feels like it's not a long enough stance for you. And then we're just going to take about 4 of these. So with your right toes tucked under, push down through both hands, lift your low belly up, and as you exhale, float the right leg up. So you're in this really long lunge. And then inhale, lowering the right knee back down. And exhaling, lifting the leg up. And inhaling, tapping the knee towards the floor. And you've got about 2 more on your own. And after your next exhalation, you'll stay there in that low lunge for a moment. Now I want you to see if you can push down into the legs enough to start to hover the torso just a little higher up. So maybe you creep onto the tips of your fingers. You might then start to creep up, bringing both hands to the center of that left thigh. Keep pulling that outer left hip back, that outer right hip forward. You're just going to pause. You might gradually bring your spine a little bit more vertical. And then on your next exhalation, hands will come back to the blocks. Lower your right knee down and shift your pelvis back. Now, as you shift your weight back, go ahead and straighten through that front leg, lifting all 5 toes up and away from the floor. And then we're going to just do 4 of these. So inhaling, coming forward, bending that front knee, and then exhaling, shifting the weight back. And you're just paying attention again to what's happening in our hamstrings. So we did some stuff to strengthen the low back just a bit. And especially my individuals that reported that their hamstrings were bothering them. I want you to notice what's happening on that outer left hamstring as you're doing this now. And then the next time you shift your pelvis back, you're going to stay there for a moment. Lift all 5 toes up and away from the floor. You might walk your blocks back a little bit, or you might walk them forward. But again, you're opening yourself to what you have or can learn in this shape. Awesome sauce. Okay, go ahead and shift your weight forward back to a low lunge. This is going to sound super weird. I want you to take one of your blocks. If you don't have a block, no worries. You can just do this as we are, but we're going to go ahead and possibly put one of our blocks underneath our right knee. If you're using a pillow, you can use that too. I would not encourage a block for this, or not a block, a book, just because it's kind of weird. And then you're going to start to walk your hands up that left thigh again. So your right knee is still pushing down into the floor, right toes are curled under, and suddenly this shape is a whole lot different now. And I want you to push down into your right knee, push down into your left foot, hug those points together, and see if you can literally take your hands to your belly and pull your low belly in and up. It sounds awkward, but like you're literally pulling your belly in and up, and it just gives you a bit more space in that left hip flexor. And you're going to pause and breathe, and you might stay here, or you might float your right arm up towards the sky, but you're just pausing and you're breathing. And I'm going to see what you're doing. Awesome sauce. As you're ready, lower that right hand if it was lifted, bring your hands down to the floor and step back to downward facing dog, and just notice what you notice now between the sides of your hips, your legs, your low back. And your knees can be as bent as they need to be so that your spine stays super straight, or as elongated as it can be. And then we'll inhale and come back to hands and knees. Bring your hands onto your blocks. Step your left leg between your hands. Great. Tuck your back toes under and see if you need to walk your back leg back just a little bit. Why are some of you on your right leg and some of you are on your left? I might have miscued you. Make sure you're on the other side you haven't done. Cool. And then you'll tuck your toes under, and then you'll just lift and lower that back knee up and down a few times, just noticing what you notice. Oh, I totally did cue you on for the back one. Sorry, Julie, I see your face. You're like, yep. And I want you to move slowly. Tim, can you keep your toes curled under? Yeah, there you go. And we're just finding a nice stretch across the front of our left thigh. And then the next time your back leg, left leg is straight, we'll go ahead and take a pause there. I want you to push down into both of your feet, hug that outer right hip back, and then see if you can lift the belly enough to become light on your fingertips. And maybe you just stay here with the chest a little bit higher up. Great. Maybe you start to walk your hands up the belly of that right thigh. Great. Keep hugging those legs together. Maybe you start to inchworm your spine a little bit more to vertical. Keep hugging the legs together, noticing what you notice happening on the front of that left leg. Nice work. Very gently, hands will come back down to the floor. Lower your back knee down to the floor. Shift your weight back. And you'll go ahead and come forward and back here, just straightening the right leg, noticing what's happening here as you're coming in and out of this shape. I notice some of you tend to swivel a little bit. Make sure you're going directly forward and back on that right leg. There you go. And then the next time that right leg is straight, go ahead and pause. Lift all 5 toes up. Straighten that right leg as best as you can. And then notice where you can open the heart just a bit. Nice work. Okay, go ahead and inhale, come forward. Plant a block under your left knee. Now, before you go anywhere, make sure the back toes are curled under. Push into the center of that block. Push down into your right foot and start to bring your spine up to vertical. So the knee stays down and you're just literally pulling up. You literally pull up the low belly. This is something I learned from Christina Stell. It seems very weird, but you're like manually touching yourself and pulling the belly up, and it increases the stretch and the sensation that you're experiencing across the front of that left thigh. And then maybe you stay there, maybe you reach your left arm up, but you're pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing what you notice, allowing the heart, the abs, the stomach to just open up just a bit more. On your next exhalation, hand will lower down, frame the front foot, and step back, downward facing dog. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and come forward back to plank pose. And then lower all the way down onto your abdomen. Once you find yourself on your belly, come up to Sphinx pose. So plant your forearms underneath you, bring the spine up to vertical. Great. Take your left hand over towards the right hand. Bend your right knee, reach around and grab your right foot. Okay, pause. Before you go anywhere, I want everyone to lift their butt up a little bit closer to your right foot. Draw your right foot and your right heel a little closer, and then see if you can drop both of those down towards the floor. Push down into your left forearm a lot. Imagine you're pulling your belly forward with your hands, and then press into the top of that left foot as you draw that right shoulder a little bit closer towards the top of your space. Nice work. As you're ready, you'll release that back foot very mindfully. So allowing it to slowly release. Come back to Sphinx pose, both arms in a number 11 shape. Take your right hand towards the left hand, bend your left knee, and grab your left foot with your left hand. Pause here. Again, let's try this a different way. Push down into your right forearm first. Lift your pelvis up a little bit so your left heel and left hip come closer together. And then from there, you can close the space between the knee joint, lower the pelvis back down, press into the top of your right foot, and draw the left shoulder towards the top of your space. Great. Very mindfully release that back foot. Go ahead and lower all the way down onto your belly. Bring your hands to your low back. Interlace your hands at the webbing, awkward opposite interlace. Before we go any further, lift the right leg up, hug all the muscles around the right leg, reach the foot back and put it down. And then do the same thing with the left leg, lifting the leg, hugging the muscles around the bone and putting it down. Press into the tops of your feet. Press down into the pubic bone. Lengthen your tailbone back as you scoop the belly up. On your next in-breath, shrug your shoulders up towards your ears and draw the shoulder blades onto your back. Reach the hands back, lift the chest up. Now you can keep your hands hovering off the pelvis just a little bit. Tuck your chin to your chest just a little bit to keep the back of the neck long. Yep. And on your next exhalation, reach the legs so far back that they also float up and away from the floor. Great. Take a big breath in here. As you exhale, bend the knees and draw the heels towards your pelvis. Inhale, send them back. And you've got 4 sets of these. So we want to engage our glutes to draw the legs in. And I want you to see if you can still lengthen your tailbone back as you send the legs back. Okay. The next time your feet come in towards your pelvis, you're going to pause and squeeze the legs in a little closer. Some of you will release and grab the outer ankles. Some of you will just let your arms open out alongside your hips. But you're going to keep squeezing through the legs. Those that are holding your ankles, you'll then start to kick back, reach the heart and sternum forward, and come up for a baby bow pose. Nice. Very gently release just the feet, but keep the feet close to your bum. Then reach the legs back like Superman, Superwoman flying through air. And then gently lower all the way down. Bring one ear to the mat and breathe. So when we're opening ourselves up to life, are we doing like what we do in bow pose where we just grab onto something and force it open? Or do we allow ourselves to open in whatever way that we are fully capable? I think sometimes, bring the other ear to the mat, we can tend to judge where we are in our own process and our own journey and try to force something that doesn't need to be forced. And so we're just checking in and seeing how that's going. All right. Bring your forehead back to the mat. Plant your hands alongside your lowest ribs. Tuck the toes under and come up either through tabletop or plank pose and make your way back to downward facing dog. Okay. Once you find yourself in downward facing dog, we're going to see how this goes. So inhale, float your right leg up and back behind you. Now see if you can keep your right leg parallel to the floor. Now, as odd as this will sound, I want you to draw your outer left hip back, squeezing your left butt cheek so much that your right hip has no choice but to start to stack on top of the left. Yep. From there, you might start to bend that right knee and let the right heel drop towards your left hip. Keep pulling your outer left hip back, squeezing your left glute as you reach your right knee towards the sky and descend your left heel towards the floor. And you're breathing across that side body or side belly as though somebody literally was pulling your belly up and away from you. Nice job. Next in-breath, gaze to your hands. As you exhale, step that right foot between your hands. Bloop. Hooray. Spin your left foot to the floor. And then come up for warrior 2. Awesome sauce. Now, once you're in warrior 2, I want everyone to look down at their feet and their knees and adjust the position so it's allowing you to open up naturally in your sacrum. So some of you will walk that right foot more towards the left. Some of you will walk it more towards the right. Some of you will then allow that left hip to turn in a little bit. So it might not be flush to the long edge of your mat. It might be more on the diagonal, but you're allowing yourself to open at the rate that is authentic to your pelvis and your sacrum, that sacred bone for you. Great. Go ahead and flip your front palm. Inhale, reverse your warrior. And then as you exhale, bend that front knee a little bit more and take in a deeper breath in your side body. How are you opening? Are you forcing yourself or are you allowing the breath to deepen the posture? Next in-breath, go ahead and come up to vertical. And then go ahead and straighten your front leg. I want you to bring your hands to your hips for a moment here. And so there are different ways that we can do triangle. You can shift your pelvis back and my spine stays pretty straight. And that gives me sensation at one place in my body. Or I can allow myself to find length and stretch on this side of the body by trying to not shift the pelvis. And so we're going to see if we can take both those options. So you'll try the first one of shifting the pelvis back. Hand will probably come a lot closer to the floor as the spine stays even. And then the second one, pelvis stays fixed, and you're just going to shift as far as you can and notice that that changes the sensation. Okay. Once you've tried both, I want you to come back and notice which one felt better to you and do that one. So it might be the one where the pelvis stays fixed and you get more of a stretch on the side of the body between the ribs and the hips. It might be the one where you shift the pelvis back and feel it more into your leg. But that's again part of this being open. It requires a sense of adaptability, knowing that that is probably all that we're all being asked to do in various ways. And then once you found your triangle, take 3 breaths there, noticing how you can draw the right ribs under a little bit more. The left ribs may be stacking on top, lengthening out through your head and down through the tail, down through that left heel. Great. Next in-breath, come back to warrior 2. And then as you exhale, cartwheel the hands down to the floor and make your way back to plank. Stay there, 3 breaths. Now, just as we did before, well, you can lift that right leg up or you cannot. It's totally up to you, but you're going to pause and you're going to breathe and you're going to pause and you're going to breathe. Okay. Lower the right foot to the floor if it is lifted. Walk your feet to touch. Push down into your left hand to lift your left shoulder rib cage up a little bit, and then start to roll to your left to stack your right hip on top of the left hip, the right shoulder on top of the left shoulder, the right foot on top of the left for Vashisthasana. Nice job, guys. On your next exhale, come back through center. And then we'll take that on the other side, push down into the right hand, roll to the right, and stack your right hip, or rather your left hip on top of the right. Nice job. Come back to plank, bend your knees a bit to lift your hips high, downward facing dog. Okay, we'll try most of that on the other side. And you're just noticing, what you notice in this moment. Our ability to remain open doesn't mean we always have to be open. It requires nuance, it requires awareness. Okay, left side. Inhale, lift your left leg up and back. Now, as you exhale, squeeze your right butt cheek so much that the right hip draws back and the left hip just has to stack because that's what ends up happening. From there, you can bend that left knee, keep drawing that right hip back and scooping the low belly like you're really pulling your abdomen with your hands. Nice job, guys. Next in-breath, go ahead and gaze to your hands. And as you exhale, step that left foot between your hands. Spin the right foot to the floor for warrior 2. And then bring yourself up to vertical. And then again, take a moment to adjust. How do your feet need to be on this side? I can't speak for any of you, but I tend to get myself in some of these patterns that are rigid. And what if that doesn't need to be? Okay, once your feet are sorted, send out through your arms, flip your left palm and inhale, reverse your warrior. And you'll just take about 2 breath cycles there. Noticing if you're forcing yourself to open or if you're allowing the breath, allowing the shape to reveal where you can open. Nice work. Next in breath, come back to warrior 2. As you exhale, bring your hands to your hips and go ahead and straighten that front leg. Now try this both ways. One way is literally shifting your pelvis back like a teapot and noticing how low you can probably lower that left hand to the shin block or floor. And then you'll come back up, hands back on hips, and keep the pelvis fixed, and then noticing how far you can shift the upper torso without shifting your pelvis back. Left arm descends, right arm reaches up, and just noticing what that does in that version of triangle. And once you've tried both of them, go ahead and do the one that felt better to you. So the first version, I often feel more in my hamstrings and in that front inner thigh. And the second one, I feel more in my QL lats, psoas. But notice what you happen to experience for you. And you just take 3 breaths. Awesome sauce. Next in breath, come back to warrior 2. As you exhale, cartwheel your hands to the floor, step back, plank pose. And again, maybe that left leg hovers, maybe it doesn't, but you're just noticing what you notice here. Lower that left foot to the floor. And then push down into your right hand, start to roll to the right and stack your left hip and shoulder. Some of you will stay right here. Some of you will bend the top knee, bring the foot behind you and take a variation of wild thing. So push down into that left foot, push down into that right foot, push down into that right hand, and just notice what this feels like. If you took that option, mindfully come back through center. Make your way back to plank, and then you'll try all that on the other side. Cool. Come back through plank. Go to down dog or child's pose and pause. And you just have 3 breath cycles here. And then lower your knees down if you're in down dog, come up to sit if you're in child's pose. I want to try that again because that looked a little wonky to me watching you guys do that. So please watch and then we'll try it again. One of the fun things about going into that wild thing variation, if we want to try it again, is that let's see, can you see my hands? Okay. So when you're in that plank, what often helps is a little bit of a cheat. So if I'm going to take what looks like my right hand, I'm going to turn my right thumb forward just a little bit to roll onto the knife edge. So I can stack left shoulder over right, left hip over right. I can then put my left foot on the floor, but because I've turned the hand out, I can push down into the right hand, I can push down into the right foot, and I can push down into the left foot to lift up. If you don't turn the hand out just a little, it impinges your shoulder. So let's try that again. So if it's the left hand's down, the left thumb will come forward and then you'll stack on top of that. If you keep the fingers straight ahead, it impinges on the shoulder. So let's see if we can try that one more time. That looks better, Julie. Nice, Sandy. Nice, Scott. Scott, bend your right knee a little bit more if you can. The back leg. There you go. Nice, Barbara. Nice, Roberta. Nice, Steve. Okay, and then try that on the other side. That's good, Mike. Nice, Erica. Nice, Jenny. Okay. And then let's come down. And we'll just have a little seat. Nice, Laura. Did that work out better for some of us? It looks like it, but okay. All right, let's go ahead and sit on our bums. Grab a blanket and put your pelvis on a blanket. And then bring both legs in front of you, knees bent. So before I want us to do Ardha Matsyendrasana, I want you to shift your pelvis back just a little bit so that you're more in a diagonal, and you can hold the backs of your legs as you lift one leg up and as you lift the other leg up. You might choose to stay here holding on to your legs, but if you're doing that, keep pulling the heart forward. So instead of rounding in, heart comes forward, and you might stay here. You might release your hands alongside your shin bones. You might play with extending one leg up, maybe the other leg up, maybe both legs up, but you'll pause and you'll breathe for 3. You'll pause and you'll breathe for 2. You'll pause and you'll breathe for 1. Nice job. Lower the knees down to the floor or feet down to the floor. Tuck your right ankle outside of your left hip. Right ankle outside of left hip. Cross your left foot over to the outside edge of your right thigh. Bring your hands to your pelvis. I want you to lift your butt up and slide your butt a little bit to the right. Notice if that then has both sit bones a little bit more firmly rooted. Go ahead and grab that left knee, shin area with your right hand, and then just bring the right hand back behind you. If you need a block because the floor feels far away, go ahead and put a hand on the block. Otherwise, hand can be on the floor. And we're going to see if we can open to life by just pulling the belly in on the left side. So we're not trying to force ourselves into the twist, but you're just allowing yourself to let go on the left side. And then that creates space for the right ribs to come towards the inner left thigh. And you've got about 5 breath cycles here. Just noticing how the inner body can open you into this external shape versus trying to force yourself into it with your arms. Got 1 more breath cycle here. See if you can sit tall through the crown of your head and lift your gaze 1 millimeter up. Okay, gently unwind and come back through center. Both feet in front of you, and then you'll tuck your left ankle outside of your right hip. Cross the right ankle over to the outside edge of your left thigh. Hands back behind your bum. Lift your pelvis up and slightly towards the left. So you're looking to find both of your sit bones being even on the blanket. And then left elbow comes around that right shin. Right hand might come behind you. And you've got about 5 breath cycles here. And it's again happening because you exhale and you let go on your right side and you invite space in on the left. Okay, on your next in breath, go ahead and come back through center. And then as you exhale, let's just gently release the legs, draw the soles of the feet together and grab the tops of the ankles. Oof. And you'll just pull the heart forward and you're noticing if you can keep this open. And some of you will then start to hinge at your hips, and it might not be more than 0.5 millimeters as far forward as you go, but you want to keep the heart open, top of the sacrum's coming forward, and you're just breathing into the inner thighs. Elbows might help press into the tops of the shins, the inner knees, or the inner thighs, but you're just pausing in your breathing. Okay, and then you'll gently come out. Keep your left leg as it is. Extend your right leg out to the right. Draw that left heel a little closer to your hips. And then you're just going to start to walk forward here. Now, again, my individuals that were telling me about their hamstrings, I want you to pay attention to what's happening on the inside edge of your right leg. Probably talking to quite a bit. And so see if you can breathe here, keeping the spine as straight as it can be. Keeping that right foot as flexed as it can be. And you might not get very far, and that's okay. I think there's this perception that to be open, we have to be like completely open, and it could be incremental things. Very gently, you'll start to walk yourself out. Draw the right foot back to meet its mate. Take a moment to just pause and notice what you notice between the sides. And we'll try all that on the other side. So go ahead and extend your left leg out. Draw the right heel a little closer to the perineum, and you might use the thumbs to remove any of the flesh. And then you'll just hinge forward. Now, as best as you can, make sure the left toes point straight up towards the ceiling. Yep. Flexing through that left foot. And you're just breathing into that inside edge of that left leg or the back of your left hip, wherever you happen to feel stuff moving around. Awesome sauce. Take one more breath cycle here. And then you'll gently start to walk the hands back, sit up vertically. Draw the left foot to meet its mate. Sit tall and just notice if things feel a little bit more balanced. And then from here, hug the outer edges of the knees and pull the knees together. Extend your legs long in front of you and make your way onto your back. And when you come to your back, just take a moment to pause and land. Just pause and land. Now, the invitation in this moment is just to notice what is present. I think the idea of openness is really misguided in some ways. It should be more a sensitivity. How can we be sensitive to the things that are happening? And so in this moment, can you start to tune into your sensitivities, what things might feel really awesome to you, and allow yourself to explore those things. So some of you will want to do a twist. Some of you might want to do happy baby, or maybe you'll want to do a thigh root or figure four, but you're allowing yourself to really be sensitive to your own individual wants and needs and respond to that. The openness comes from being really aware of how we are and how we operate. Doesn't mean that we need to take in all things. I have about another minute or so doing whatever the heck you happen to be doing. So I do encourage you to visit both sides if you've chosen something asymmetrical. And then as you feel complete, start to make your way to your backs. And for today, I would like to encourage Supta Baddha Konasana. It's said to be the most yin, the most open, the most receptive of all the poses. So blocks supporting the outer thighs, perhaps a blanket on the pelvis or covering the body if you feel cold. And then once you're on your backs, notice where you wish to place your hands. Some of you will want your hands on your abdomen, maybe on your hips. Some of you will want your hands off the body and out to the right and to the left. And if you've chosen that second option, notice that you might be able to swim the arms a little bit further away from the pelvis until it feels like the shoulder blades really do just sort of support the lift of the heart and the chest just naturally starts to open. And then from here, take another minute to fidget until you feel like you can really settle into this shape. And as you settle, begin to draw your awareness first and foremost to the support that's underneath you. So allowing the bones of the body really to just descend into the blocks, into the mat, into the floor. And then notice how you can start to soften the muscular tissue around those bones so that they yield themselves almost like water. And as you continue to let the bones drop and you continue to allow the muscles to soften, it naturally allows the breath to become a bit more vibrant and a bit more open. And for today, we'll bring our awareness to our abdomen, and you're just observing the breath as it enters and as it exits the body. And you just allow the awareness to rest on the abdomen, watching the breath as it enters and as it exits the body. So stay like this for a few more minutes, and I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Allow the technique to go and gently return your awareness. As you come back,
Just take a moment to check in and notice what you notice. Start to invite some gentle wiggling in your fingers, maybe circles of the wrists. Bring your hands to the outer edges of your thighs and close your knees together. And there, stretch and wiggle and yawn in any way that feels good to you. And then gently start to make your way to your right side. From there, draw yourself to a tall, comfortable seat. And when you're vertical, please elevate your thumb on a block or a blanket, anything that will let you sit tall. And you can keep your gaze inward or the eyes softened down towards the floor. Take this first few seconds that we're here to really just land in the body. So you might need to fidget a little bit. Plant the hands comfortably on the tops of the thighs. And then just notice where you need to plant the hands so that the shoulders can drop down. The weight of the hands can settle into the thighs. The weight of the pelvis and the legs and the feet root down towards the floor. Then start to bring your awareness into the body, maybe floating up from the soles of the feet, coming in through the tubes of your legs, up through the hollows of your hips, into the abdomen, into the chest, the throat, releasing any tension around the jaw, coming into the back of the eyes, and then drawing your awareness to the nostrils and the tips of the nostrils. Now just allow your awareness to rest at the tips of your nostrils and notice as the breath enters and as the breath exits the body. And you're working for this first bit to just observe the length of the breath as it comes in and the length of the breath as it goes out. As you continue to sit with the breath, I want you to notice then that natural transition where the inhalation becomes the exhalation and the exhalation becomes the inhalation. As you start to notice that space, can you allow your awareness to rest on that space just a bit more? If you notice that the mind wanders, just come back to the simple aspect of the breath, watching it enter and watching it exit through the nostrils. And gradually paying more attention to those spaces between. Take 3 more breath cycles here. And then you'll just take a moment to check in. Notice what you notice. Sometimes it's in those spaces, those pauses, where nothing is technically happening, where there's the most discomfort that comes up. But it's also in those spaces and those pauses where we start to develop the sensitivity to the life that's always unfolding around us. And the more we can develop a sensitivity towards that, the more I think we can actually remain open to our lives and the relationships and beings that are within them in a genuine and authentic manner. We'll go ahead and complete our practice with the collective breath. So bring your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Press the palms into each other. Receive the weight of the thumbs into your sternum and then lift the heart towards the hands. Gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a big breath in. Audible breath out. Lower your chin towards your chest. Bring your thumbs to your third eye center. May our thoughts be clear. Draw your thumbs to your lips. May our words be kind. And then draw your thumbs to your heart center. May our hearts be open. The light within me honors and salutes the light within you. Namaste.